All right, guys, I'm really happy to be joined here by my good friend Alessio. Alessio, I'll let him introduce himself. But he was one of my coaches my freshman year of college. So introduce yourself so we can get right into it.
Yeah, thanks, buddy. Really happy to be here. Yeah, I was one of Crespo's coaches at Nazareth, but I'm not that much older, so don't think I'm like way older, right? I do look pretty young, but only early 30s. But yeah, so I'm a local coach up in upstate New York, both at a high school and club soccer level. Also did obviously a little bit of college coaching and ODP, so I'm a big soccer person. Still play in UPSL leagues and as many men's league and co-ed leagues as I can find around here. Also, big Italian soccer enthusiast, probably one of the more passionate ones you're going to meet. Been following it since I was like 5 years old at Euro 2000 with the guy like Del Piero and Totti and Conte scoring goals. So it's been an up and down journey ever since then. But right now it's been a little bit better of a week, so I'm feeling okay on this Friday.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely. I feel like a word that probably a lot of Italians would use to describe their feeling today is just relieved after that result from yesterday.
Yeah, definitely. It was all relief, like the whole day. I tell my friends, I'm like, not too many things make me nervous, but watching Italy play makes me very nervous, very tense. Besides the odd times, like, the Euro 2020, 21 run, it was more like an adrenaline, was really fun. It was a great team. Like, it felt like there was a confidence to them. But since then, forward then, freaking World playoff stuff, like, just too tense for me. So it was a tricky watch yesterday. But as soon as Tonali gets the goal and then Moise Kean gets a second one, I'm like, whew. I go to soccer practice last night. I'm like, I don't know if I felt good, but I felt very relieved. Like after you had like a really tough test or something, as well as telling players. So it's okay.
Yes. Yeah, so obviously to just get right into the analysis of that game yesterday, I guess the first question I would ask you, watching that game, why do you feel the first half was so stagnant? Because obviously Italy uh, got the goals in this, both of the goals in the second half, but obviously a very cagey first half. So, what do you kind of put that down to? What do you think of that first half?
Yeah, I think for 10 minutes there was a little bit of an adrenaline, like after they sing the anthem and everything like that. Like there was a few moments they were pressing pretty high and there was a lot of energy and like almost kind of created a goal, but then it was a real drop off. And honestly, I think a big part of it has to be like a nerves and a fear factor that even those players are feeling because that cannot be an easy situation. Like that is so much pressure. You wearing an Italy jersey and having to play in a World Cup playoff and having the little ghosts. Like I'm over half of them have been part of the team that didn't make that, lost in the Macedonia game. Maybe a couple are still around from the Sweden game. So that's like a lot of pressure to be playing through that. And sometimes even at home, I think may have made that even more difficult. Gattuso said they chose Bergamo's Atalanta Stadium because it just felt like a more friendly environment than if they had played in the San Siro where there's
Yeah.
80,000 like ready for something to go wrong type of thing, like it did against Norway. So I do think a big part of it was just nerves, like not wanting to take too many chances. Obviously, like didn't play poorly. They were still the team in control of the game. And Northern Ireland had like four shots the entire match. Um, but so I think they were a bit pragmatic, like not didn't want to give anything away. But I think they felt a bit probably paralyzed by just the tension and the pressure. And credit to Northern Ireland too. Like they came with their game plan. They knew what they needed to do. Sit deep, be frustrating. No one on Italy was going to be able to dribble by you. Like Politano, I can't believe I'm saying it, kind of looked like the most dangerous guy in the first half in terms of when he actually took on his wing back and kind of put a cross into the box or something like that. It looked like something could almost happen. But other than that, like it was going to have to be a perfect pattern or something just dropping. And in the first half, it just didn't. And then fortunately, second half, naturally the game starts to open up a little bit more. And can't tell you how crucial like the goal is to just haven't been there in like a player. Like once your team goes 1-0 up, all of a sudden you are more confident. Like you take less touches to go forward. You have a little bit more energy to go and press teams and be confident, like winning 50-50s and all of that. So I think all of those kind of things build up, but it just wasn't there in the first half.
Yeah, one thing that I saw was that basically the whole like PR and marketing around the game was do it for the Italians that never seen Italy play in the World Cup. So yeah, I think there's definitely a huge pressure on their back there, just like you said. And I agree with you. I think that, the nerves there, especially because there's a lot of new players on the team as well. They're kind of trying to mix a little bit of the veterans back from the Euro win in 2020, 2021, but there's still a lot of new guys there who, weren't part of that. And so one player I want to ask you about is obviously Sandro Tonali, who I think is 100% the man of the match from yesterday's match. Obviously, getting that goal and then getting the second assist. Do you think that he is the best player on the national team right now?
Yeah, I've been saying that for a while with guys. Like, I think Tonali's got a little bit of everything. Like, he's a big, strong guy, covers every blade of grass, but he's a good player too. Like Paul Scholes thought he was the best player in the Premier League last season, or best midfielder at least. And obviously, I'm pretty biased, but I think Paul Scholes might be right. Like, he does a little bit of everything, and he's very simple on the ball too. But he makes runs forward. He's very clever in terms of like he'll make a run just to open up space for someone else. So I think he makes players around him better, and he's quality. And he can score goals from outside the box. He wins so many like 50-50s. Like if there's ever, even in the Premier League, in the most physical league in the world, like Tonali wins the ball back a lot. I don't know the stats exactly, but just watching it when he's on point, like Newcastle are ticking a little bit more. And Newcastle is a very much adrenaline team. It's been fun seeing him there, but and I like how much the Newcastle fans love him. But I think a bigger team is in the cards for him this summer. It'd be great if it was Juventus, but it looks like something like a Man United or Arsenal could be a possibility for him, which again would be great. But yeah, I think he's the best player by a long ways. Obviously, Donnarumma is a world class goalkeeper, but still, the goalkeeper is only so much influence he can have on the actual team playing in front of him. Di Marco has probably been the best player in Serie A this year, but for Italy, he's never really had like a big moment. He scored the one goal against France in the Nations League about like a year and a half ago, but it hasn't felt like he's replicated the same form for the national team as he does with Inter. Bastoni's obviously a polarizing character the last month, but he is a quality defender. Calafiori's very good. So I think I would probably say between those 4 or 5 guys are your top end of the
Yeah.
roster. And I think the problem is there. None of those are attacking players, really. I mean, I guess DiMarco is the most attacking guy, but he's really a left wing back.
Yeah, a wing back. Yeah. I think a lot of DeMarco not being able to play at the national team kind of comes down to him not being able to play as a wing back. I think, when you try to force him to play in a back four, you hold him back because he's not a great defender.
Yeah,
He's
definitely.
much better going forward. But I think the only person that possibly you could put in that discussion there with Tonali is Donnarumma in goal, obviously. But like you said, a goalie can't have as much of an impact on the game as obviously someone on the outfield. And so you win the game 2-0. You're going on, and the players are watching the penalty shootout between Bosnia and Wales. And already to get into the next game, obviously, which is this upcoming Tuesday, they're going to be traveling to Bosnia, and they have 90 minutes, maybe plus extra time in PKs to fight it out for a spot in the World Cup. But did you see the video of DeMarco and I forgot, was it Gigio?
I think it's Vicario.
Oh, Vicario. Okay, yeah. And they're basically celebrating the fact that Wales didn't go through. I personally don't think there's much of a difference between the two squads. If I'm being honest, I don't know about you. But what are your thoughts of this upcoming game? And I mean, I'm pretty positive that the Bosnian players are going to use that video. It's going to be playing in the locker room as they're
Sure.
going out. They're going to try to use as much fuel as they can. But what did you think about that? And again, just already hopping into what you think of
Yeah.
this upcoming game.
I don't know. So maybe I am older than I think, but I think this is one of the problems of like the social media. Like it's like one little clip of DiMarco and Vicario and some of like the coaching staff, like just watching it, and there's no context. Like it could have been something like Vicario was like, "Well, I bet Bosnia wins, or I bet they're going to score here," or something like that, and then Bosnia wins it, so he's like pumped. He doesn't know anyone's like filming him or anything like that.
Yeah.
So it could be one of those. The thing is kind of dumb because yeah, I don't
Yeah,
think
there's no context for sure, but that's what it's
yeah,
been
like you
putting
saw
out as.
DiMarco's yeah. So I'm sure Bosnia will use that, and again, I think it's one of those things. It's like a national anthem. It pumps them up for like 5-10 minutes, and then the real stuff will take over. But either or, I think it would have been a really tough game. I have some quarrels about this whole like everything FIFA's doing, organizing this World Cup and even this playoff. I think is a little ridiculous the way it's set up, in the sense that Sweden, right,
Mhm.
has lost 4 of their 6 qualifying games and tied the other 2. So they did not win any qualifying game. They beat Ukraine last night in a neutral venue because Ukraine can't play at home. And now they're one game away from making the World Cup where they get to play at home versus a Poland team. So Sweden could end up at this World Cup having won 2 games, one game being at home
Yeah.
too. So I think there's a little bit of a flaw there. I don't really understand. So I think Italy, Turkey, and Denmark are all playing away games, despite being like the higher seeded team, the teams that have done better in the
Hmm.
qualifying rounds. And all of them will have to play an away game against a smaller team who get a home field advantage in a one-off game. I don't see any like I don't know. That doesn't make too much logical sense to me. If it was a home and away, sure, whatever, that's fine. If it was a one-off game, make that a neutral venue. One friend of mine said, why didn't they just do like Wales, Bosnia, Italy, Northern Ireland, all in Portugal, and then the Turkey group, all of those games would be played in Spain
Makes
or something
sense.
like that. So to make it completely even. I also think it's a little ridiculous, and maybe it's going to sound like we're just making excuses for Italy, but 32 teams to 48 teams in a World Cup already going to dilute the talent and everything there. And I guess it's cool that Curacao and Haiti and Cape Verde Islands and like New Zealand or something are going to be at the World Cup. But I guarantee, just like the Club World Cup thing last year, there's going to be way more games that finish 5-0 than ever before because those teams just aren't good enough. So I don't think
They
there's
aren't the
any
level,
reason
yeah.
why that North America, Central America have 6 teams at a World Cup. Because Europe used to have 13 when it was 32 teams, and now they only have I think I want to say 16, maybe 17 out of 48. So they've increased 4 spots, and North America have also increased 3 spots. So side rant over. I think the whole organization of these World Cup qualifiers and stuff is a little ridiculous, but I think Bosnia is going to be tough. Yeah, they're going to be really pumped up. It's a very passionate soccer country. We have a lot of Bosnians in the soccer community here in Binghamton, New York. So if this doesn't go well, I might have to move because I don't think I can keep going to the Dome and play the Bosnian teams on Sunday night men's league team. And I have 2 Bosnians on the teams that I coach. So it's going to be a really tough return for me. I'm just going to not talk about it, pretend like it doesn't happen if this doesn't go well. And it feels like one of those things like it's going to be freaking Jekyll that scores a goal in the 90th minute. So
Another Serie A, someone that's very known in the Serie A.
yeah, yeah. A lot of Bosnia's team plays in Serie A, so I don't know. They're not well-known guys, but they are players playing in the top division that know what's going on, and they got everything to play for in this game. So I think it'll be tough. I'm hoping Gattuso's experience and the positive energy it seems that he's trying to bring to the team and the togetherness and all of that can help them suffer through the tough moments and find a goal or two to win the game.
So, do you think that Italy should still kind of continue playing this 3-5-2, which a lot of times kind of moves into the 5-3-2? You could see a lot in the North Ireland game where it's basically a back five and kind of just continue playing with that grinta rather than trying to let's outpossess them, let's press them high, let's try to play on the front foot.
Yeah, I think so because these games, it's just about winning this game. And I don't think that 3-5-2 necessarily means you're playing defensively. It's how you approach it and how the game's going, and you can still take it to a team. But I also don't think that Italy's got enough good defenders, even if we're calling Bastoni and Calafiori two of the stronger guys, like to just resist. It feels like Donnarumma always has to make a big save, really. I think yesterday was one of the first games for a long time where he didn't. So I think they were very solid. And above all else in these kind of international games, like you got to make sure you're not giving too many chances away. So I think that still has to be like a priority. I think it would be super wrong if they sit back and let Bosnia take the advantage, meaning let them have the ball because being a home team, being like Bosnians are technical players. Like if you give them the ball, they can make things happen. They have a couple of youngsters that are good in like 1v1 situations, so that would be more nervy. But I think Italy will still have the ball the majority of the time. I think it's going to be what they do with it and what kind of tempo they play because the first half against Northern Ireland was just way too slow and timid and passive about it. But for now, just based on the quality of the roster, and like you said, like DiMarco's at his best playing as a left wing back. The way you set up the roster, I think, is just continuing this 3-5-2. Unless it's not going right and you need to go for a little sacrificial Hail Mary type of thing, you take off one of the back three, probably Mancini because he's a bull in a china shop. I think that's just the safer way to go for now.
And so, kind of picking up on that point where you talked about Mancini, because another thing that I see is an issue with the national team is that they have like three-footed, left-footed center backs with Calafiori, Bastoni, and even Buongiorno as well, who hasn't even been doing too well for Napoli this season. But there's too many similar players in the same position, which is a reason why possibly Mancini has to start. Because, like you said, he he's exactly what you don't want a center back to be. He's either having a 9 out of 10 game or a 2 out of 10 game. Whereas for a center back, you just kind of want a 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10 game all the time with no mistakes. But with that being said, would you make any changes? Because obviously Gattuso in the last match he had Donnarumma, Calafiori on the left, Bastoni in the middle with Mancini. Then that same midfield three, Locatelli, Tonali, Barella. DeMarco, Politano, and then Retegui and Keane up top. Would you make any changes to that lineup
Yeah,
for this match?
again, it's tricky to say because I've got Gattuso's a coach. He knows he's in and around them all the time. He sees them at training and what's going well. Mancini, the redeeming factor for him, I think, is that he's having a pretty good season with Roma. To be fair, like Roma's had one of the best defenses in all of Europe, and he plays pretty much every minute. So that's a good stat in his favor. But it just feels like he's got. Would you be that surprised if he got red carded after 10 minutes on Tuesday? I wouldn't be
Yeah.
that surprised if he did something dumb. So that kind of thing is it's just nervy about him. And I think that I think Giorgio Scalvini, I mean, he's a young guy. He's a right-footed center back that plays in the back three on a pretty good Atalanta team. He's won a Europa League, so it's not like this is just some young guy as the first season he's having a breakout year. So he would have been one that, if you asked me before, I would have liked to have seen him been more part of it. I know everyone's is joining the Palestra train because Palestra literally looks like a rejuvenation of Spinazzola in his prime, at least in Serie A. And even yesterday when he subbed on, like he almost had one outrageous assist. Like he just looks like a proper athlete. So he might be one that I'd rather see over Politano. Although Politano, to be fair to him, like he's been part of winning teams. He seems to have Gattuso's trust, so he's most likely going to play. I don't think he can really touch the midfield three. Barella looked a little bit more sharp yesterday than he has in the past few weeks. I think he's just one that's burnt out. Locatelli, Tonali, as we said, they've been pretty solid. I think Nico Pisili brings something different.
I
If
like him
Davide
too.
Fratesi played more often for Inter or played on a different team, I think we'd see a pretty good version like we did towards the end of last season. I think Fratesi was great, and he's a goal scoring midfielder. But bringing those two off the bench might not be the worst option. Up top, so tricky. Like Moise Kean has actually a great record playing for the national team, so I feel that one's fair and it's merited, even if he's having a tough year with a pretty bad Fiorentina team. The Retegui one is just hard because like yesterday he looked super off. He probably could have scored a goal or two. But do we have someone that's just like, yep, I'm so much better? Is it Esposito? Probably
Yeah.
eventually, but he is only 20. But he is a big dude. If you're putting a lot of crosses in, that could be the option. But again, like you can't underestimate having that card to throw in the second half. You bring him on, and again, he's been in good form too, scoring goals both in Serie A and the Champions League and stuff. So I think he's probably the future. Retegi's probably going to be the one that starts again tomorrow because him and Keane have a good rapport, and Gattuso seems to trust them. And when he is up firing, like he scored 20 something goals in Serie A last season, it's hard to argue against that one. So I'm assuming it'll probably be the same lineup as yesterday, especially because he got 4 days rest in between. So that's if I were in Gattuso's spot, more or less the same. Maybe Scalvini and for Mancini would be my only real change.
What about Gatti?
No, Gatti's cool and great story and all of that. And he's a Juventus guy and he has a great hair transplant. But I don't. Again, if you need a goal, he actually turns up with some goals. But I just don't think he's quality. Like he's not picking passes forward that's going to break down a team. He doesn't start too regularly for Juventus over Lloyd Kelly, so he's going to be a cheerleader on the sideline for me.
Yeah, and I mean, in my opinion too, if you can't put Lloyd Kelly on the bench, there's something there because I
Yeah.
think he's a very average center back. But to wrap up, just to talk about the game against Bosnia before we do go on to kind of the bigger picture, the state of the Nazionale. What do you predict for the game? Do you think Italy make it through? Is it going to go down to the penalties? Kind of what do you think there?
I think we'll win 2-1. I think we'll have a decent start, get a goal, get a second goal. Great first half. Feel okay. Bosnia will get one back through Dzeko, probably a Mancini mistake, and it'll be super nervy for a half hour, but we'll just squeak it out. Donnarumma makes a couple of saves at the end.
Awesome. Yeah, I suspect they'll go through as well. I think that the first game they had more of a chance to lose in the second game because I think that now that they finally got that win, I think there's a monkey off their back now, and I think I think there's still going to be some nerves because they're still not there, job's still not done. But I think that again, getting that first win under their belt will definitely do very well for them.
Yeah.
But for us to close out again, just to talk about the kind of general state of the national team. Obviously, Italy haven't won a World Cup knockout match in 20 years since they lifted the trophy in 2006. So what do you think is realistic for the national team if they do make it to the World Cup? What is your kind of outlook for them coming here to North America in the summer? Because I feel Italy, when they have to play against lower opposition, I feel like they always kind of play down to their level. But when they are the underdogs in the matchup, as they were back in the Euros that they won, you see a little bit of a different team. So what can you expect from them in the summer if they do win this match?
Yeah, I think it's anyone's guess at what will turn up. I think Mancini's Italy team was very different in that since day one, when he came in 2018, like there was an idea of what this team was going to be like. This was 4-3-3. He looked at who are the best Italian players in that moment. He saw Verratti, Jorginho, young Barella. There's still Chiellini and Bonucci around. Immobile was scoring a boatload of goals for Lazio. Insigne was talented. There was a young Chiesa or Berardi in that. Like Spinazzola was finding his own. He was a proper talent at left back. So I think that all worked well, and he made a very harmonious group that could go and smack teams. Like they won 3-0 against a pretty good Switzerland team, 3-0 against Turkey. Like beat the star-studded Belgium team, not comfortably but deservedly. So I think that was a very good team, and it's important to remember that only 4.5, 5 years ago, that Italy team went 37 games unbeaten, which is an international record, like a historical record there. So we're not super far removed from a very good team. Now, right now, again, there's some decent pieces in there, but it does feel like you asked me, like, are we sticking with this 3-5-2 stuff? Are we trying something different? I don't think there's any time for anyone to really find the magic wand and make that happen. Even Mancini's group took a little bit of time before that really all started to click around like 2019, 2020 COVID time, where they really started to like win a lot of games and play some pretty attacking soccer. So for this summer, if you get there, I think they can make a decent run. But once you play a very good team, like in Argentina, Spain, France, I don't see Italy beating any of those teams because I don't think they have that actual super toughness to beat like past Italian teams have had. Like
Hmm.
2016, Conte's Italy at the Euros beat a much better Belgium team, beat a much better Spain team, um, brought Germany all the way to penalty kicks. And this was with a team with like Giaccherini, Graziano Pelle, and Adair and Darmian playing. So like, but that team had the back three: Bonucci, Barzagli, and Chiellini, and Buffon in goal. I don't think this group has that same toughness. So when that gets really difficult, and you play a team that's better than you, I don't think they're going to have that same classic Italian response. The group's not going to be easy with Switzerland and Canada and Qatar, but you think with the three, like sometimes three teams passing, they should be able to beat Qatar, should be able to get something from a Canada and Switzerland game. So you make it out of the group, and then you never know in these one-off games. But like I said, I think as soon as Italy plays a really solid team, then I think unfortunately that is going to be where the line draws there. But if Gattuso starts a positive moment here, and I'm not part of this idea that Italian soccer is in this super big crisis like everyone's making out this past month. I think there's isolated moments. We can talk about the last couple of qualification stuff. Is it the golden days? No, nowhere near it with the Pirlos and Maldinis and all of that. But we're still a good soccer country. Like Inter's been to the Champions League final 2 of the last 3 years. Atalanta's won the Europa League. Roma's been to Europa League finals and won the conference thing. All the under 20, the youth teams, all of them won games this week, like by big scorelines, and they played decent teams. Under 21s beat Macedonia. Under 19s beat Portugal. The under 17s beat Scotland. Like, so it's not like there's no talent coming through. Under 20 World Cup a couple of years ago, Italy got to the final. So I don't think there's this crazy crisis. Can it be better? Do they need to fix a lot of things? Sure. I wish the national team and Serie A worked better together. Like, there's no reason why Serie A needed to have games last week. PSG cancels games whenever they want before the Champions League games to help them out. So obviously the French league and PSG are collaborating, which is good for them. So I don't see why Serie A and the national team seem to never help each other out. But that's besides the fact. So more or less, my prediction is around a 16.
Round of 16. Awesome, awesome. And so the last question here for us to wrap up. Um, with that being said, because obviously I think that what happens is the the national team not making it to the World Cup for two times kind of really highlights that. But very shortly, do you think Gattuso can be the guy to kind of spearhead the movement moving forward, or do you think he's kind of a stopgap kind of guy, and eventually they're gonna have to move on from him to
Yeah,
actually make that push?
yeah. I think he's probably a stopgap just based on his coaching career. He's done okay, but there's no proof of like, yep, this guy can take a team from here and bring him up here. He can raise talents. He can spot players. He can win a game by making some adjustment in that. Doesn't quite look like. I mean, I love Gattuso, but it just doesn't look like he has that in his caliber. I guess I think it's cool that Bonucci's his assistant and Buffon's taking on the one of the supporting staff roles, which is all great having those kind of characters around that have won things and have been captains of the team. But I don't know if Gattuso's really, and it's tough because Italy literally has, along with Spain, like the best coaches in here. But you have Ancelotti in Brazil. You have Conte, Allegri, De Zerbi, Gasperini, all these guys coaching the
Inzaghi,
club teams, Inzaghi coaching teams. Like, it felt like last summer, Gattuso was like the fifth option. It just
yeah.
happened that Allegri took the job before the Norway games at Milan. Conte decided to stick around at Napoli because they won Serie A. Inzaghi was still at Inter and then took the Al Hilal job
Oh,
like
hello, yeah.
right away before the Italy Norway game. So I think any of those three that I just mentioned, Ranieri turned it down. I think any of those four would have taken the national team job. Probably Gasperini at Roma too would have been a good option here. Any of those 4 or 5 would have been picked before Gattuso. Just based on what they've achieved as coaches.
Yeah, I think timing is huge. I yesterday I was at Gillette Stadium for the Brazil versus France game, and seeing Ancelotti there on the bench, it's just like I feel like just the timing is off because how different would this outlook if if it's not Gattuso on the bench and it's Ancelotti, who is arguably the greatest coach ever based off of just his achievements. And obviously being Italian, his first international job ends up being with Brazil. Awesome for the Brazilian national team, but it must feel a little sour for the
Yeah.
Italians.
Yeah, for sure. Especially with all this, just the recent success he had again, that kind of like really reconfirmed his status as a legend of the game. Like you said, one of the most successful coaches of all time. And then just feel like, oh, he took the Brazil job a week before Italy played Norway, and who knows what would have happened if if those games were a little bit earlier. And even like Luciano Spalletti's an excellent coach. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, he's turned around Juventus around and turned them into an almost legitimate team. I find that one really strange why it did not work with Italy. I think Spalletti's a little bit of a weird guy. So I think what Gattuso's, to his credit, by all accounts, he's like been connecting with the players. He's been so positive with them. He goes and visits them. He calls Calafiori like every day just to make sure he's doing okay physically and emotionally and whatever. So I don't think Spalletti's has that same like, I don't know, connection with these players, because it never really felt that way, which was strange because I thought that was going to be just a good natural progression on from Mancini, but here we
Yeah,
are.
very similar as well because Spalletti likes to play in that 4-3-3 as well, which was kind of the base that Mancini had with them. And I agree. I am also a little surprised that Spalletti didn't work out with the national team. Obviously, making that progression after winning the title with Napoli after so many years, I also expected them to do well. But the thing with Spalletti that I've been hearing is that he was very focused on the tactical side, and again, not really that kind of personal side in making the group have this good cohesion like Gattuso is. You know, they'd be watching a bunch of film. Again, this is just reports and things that I've heard people say, whereas Gattuso is kind of not really looking too much at the tactics. He's like, oh, we're going to play this way. This is what we're going to do. And we're not going to watch a bunch of film. Let's just, let's get together.
Yeah, which in these international games, like there's not too much time. Like
Yeah.
realistically, what all the players played Saturday, Sunday, so they turned up Monday at Coverciano, and how much training can you do that day? It's mostly like recovery stuff. There's a bunch of the star guys had injuries anyway, so it's really Tuesday and Wednesday to do a bit of stuff, and then they had to travel. So there's not a whole lot of time for these international teams to really put stuff into play. So I think it's a much tougher coaching job when it comes to like patterns of play and like principles and all of that kind of all the things that the club coaches work on every single day and have a whole month of preseason to implement. So I think it's a lot tougher there. So again, in the end, I think Gattuso ends up being the right guy given the like order of coaches that came, and he was the only one that said yes to it. So he could be the one that gets to the World Cup, and then we'll be singing his praises, and rightly so, because he's done a decent job. And if it doesn't work, he'll probably be replaced as is tradition in Italy.
All right. So since we are running out of time, unfortunately, just one last quick fire question. In your ideal world, Italy go to the World Cup, they make the World Cup. Obviously, in your ideal world, they'd win, but let's say they don't. Who would you love to see taking over the national team if they do decide to move away from Gattuso? Again, it doesn't have to be realistic at all, but just like who would you like to see there?
Yeah, good question. I would probably say like I think Simone Inzaghi would be a pretty decent one. Like he's had good success both at Inter and Lazio, and I think he's doing pretty well at Al Hilal. He likes this 3-5-2, so if that's what we're carrying on with, he can make it good. Like I think Inter was an attacking team in a 3-5-2, right? So I think he can carry that forward. Obviously, a good portion of the national team are Inter guys too, so there's already a strong connection there. And again, I don't think that's something you can overlook. So he might be the one. He's not my favorite, but I think he would be a great option there to then have the plan in place, bring in new guys like Palestra and Scalvini and Pasili and some of these other attacking the Esposito. So he might be probably the most logical replacement or next step, I would say.
Gotcha. So awesome. Thank you so much, Alessio, for coming on.
Thank you.
Please, it was a pleasure having you. Hopefully, this can happen some more times. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. We just broke 50 subscribers. Make sure you like, comment what you think, and comment here if you also want to see Alessio join us some more times. Share the video, and thank you guys for coming along. Any final words?
No, appreciate it, man. I don't know if you've ever shared, but Crespo was an elite player in college. So it was one of my favorites to coach. So it was a great time. But yeah, thanks again. It's a great experience. You let me know next time. I'm free on every Friday, man.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate the compliments there. But thank you guys so much. We'll see you guys in the next one. Have a good one.